Minister urges Papua New Guineans to buy PNG Made. Lae faces ongoing shortages of antibiotics and antimalarial drugs. And thousands in Jiwaka Province also affected by earthquake.
This is the National EMTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Thursday's news. In these difficult times, Papua New Guineans have been encouraged to purchase PNG Made products to safeguard jobs for locals and also contribute to the economy. In a news conference today, Treasury Minister Charles Abel said the national government has made some adjustments to generate revenue for the country. This includes regulations on fuel consumption by fishing vessels operating in the country's waters. But the challenge now is for locals to buy PNG Made products.
With the PNG economy not performing well against foreign currencies, the national government is now implementing incentives to increase the value of kina. In the fisheries industry, the government had removed the fuel discount privilege on international fishing vessels. This comes after the national government realized that most of PNG tuna is sold overseas and not manufactured locally.
Our tuna to be processed in our country so that the value adding, the job creation, the investment, the spin-off to other SMEs and all that support the tuna industry, the profit that comes back to the government is increased. And not only that, we are self-reliant. We are able to produce our own food for our own people. We don't have to import it because we have all the tuna stock here. We have the agriculture resources here to grow our own rice. We don't need to import everything and be struggling for foreign exchange and providing jobs for people offshore.
Papua New Guinea is a major importer of food products, most of which are produced overseas. Because of this, the government plans to invest in downstream processing. 2 weeks ago, police in Mount Hagen raided a shop in Goroka and confiscated counterfeit products, including close to 1 million kina stacked in noodles cartons.
You're welcome to run business in the country, but do not cheat our people with fake goods or outdated goods.
In its drive to increase the value of kina, the PNG Manufacturers Council is promoting the purchase of local products.
Similar story with vegetable oil. You know, Highland Meadows, it used to be a PNG Made product. Most Papua New Guineans think that they're still buying PNG Made oil. We are a massive exporter of oil, but when you buy this one, you're buying imported oil. When you buy Golden Sun, you're buying PNG Made oil. And it's not just the oil, you have a different company that manufactures the bottles. You know, you have another company that manufactures the label, you have another company that manufactures the cardboard packaging for all of these products. So you have the broader added value, and when people go and buy this product, or they go and buy the King, or particularly the Ocean Blue, which has become a really strong leader in the market, you're not creating any employment or any value in Papua New Guinea.
However, there are also imported goods on the shelf, and Papua New Guineans are encouraged to purchase more PNG Made products. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The Milford Haven Clinic in Lae has been facing an ongoing shortage of antibiotics and antimalarial drugs since December. This morning, when a batch of medicines were delivered, paid for by the Lae District DSIP funding, clinic staff said the medicine shortage was affecting patients. Many of the clinics in Lae are suffering from basic drug shortages, with staff afraid to speak out for fear of being penalized.
This morning, new supplies for the Milford Haven Clinic bought with DSIP money. The supplies just came in time to ease an ongoing medicine shortage faced by the clinic. The officer in charge told MTV since December there's been a chronic shortage of antibiotics and antimalarial drugs.
Especially all antibiotics, now Narpla got. But the only medicine that now no got it, they're all antimalarials. So Malawan had to meet that.
The clinic attends to more than 30,000 people, some coming from as far away as villages along the Lae-Bulolo highway. The numbers fluctuate, but the irregular influxes are not planned for. For Lae, the shortages happen when the area medical store where the medicines come from doesn't have enough to supply the clinics. It's an ongoing problem that health workers on the front line are too afraid to talk about.
We play ball saving all you and Galto. Some triple labu tale butu mitium all sakamle. I want up no sugabensis. Timini all this lab sakam all miles want naza to all sakam.
Inside the clinic, the roof is leaking. It's an old building that desperately needs attention. It is understood funding will be made available for renovations. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Ley.
The current muddy, murky state of the waterways in the Kikohori Delta of Gulf Province is now causing food shortages in over 50 villages. These sago-making communities have now refrained from sources of food and water in fear of being poisoned after dead fish were found along the river with debris from the Highlands earthquake overflowing into the Kikohori River. Head teacher of Veru Primary School, Leonard Henny, reported that last Sunday that the bodies of a woman and a child were recovered near Ogamabu village, 3 kilometers from Kikohori town. Specific details on the cause of death are yet to be established. However, it is believed the deaths are earthquake-related. Mr. Henny also reported that the tremor on the 26th of February has leaving families homeless. Schools have also been closed due to the disaster. Meantime, a committee has been established to work together with the Gulf Provincial Disaster Office to coordinate distribution of relief supplies, mainly from donations brought in earlier this week. Over 18,000 people at Upper Jimmy in Jiwaka Province have been without road access for 2 weeks after 3 bridges were washed away by floods. People in Upper Jimmy have also been hit hard by the 7.5 magnitude earthquake that occurred 2 weeks ago in the Highlands region. There are no reports of deaths, but an elderly woman was injured during the quake.
The 3 bridges that were washed away link over 18,000 people living in Upper Jimmy. 2 weeks now, public servants have been using airplanes to transport the materials and food supplies. Jimmy District Development Authority has been subsidizing 3/4 of the airfares to allow the schools and clinics to operate. But for the locals, they were forced to walk for more than 40 kilometers to find food and clean water. It will cost at least 6 million kina to build new bridges.
Namila to clear also this disaster earthquake make a big impact of business. Work bar man mary everyday activity also need him support whoever am interested. Hello album DDA on stream strategy all this something.
Locals say that the flood happened hours after the 7.5 magnitude earthquake. They say there was a heavy downpour and all the creeks and rivers flooded and completely washed away the bridges, food gardens and houses. A mother and her 4 children were nearly washed away, but they were rescued by the locals. An elderly woman suffered injuries when her house was buried under the landslip. She is currently receiving treatment at Kujip Hospital.
Golo one pla up tasol upside a mountain stop, upside mountain stop, upside mountain stop. Mi bla stop another lo mountain, so mi worry lo olketa community blomi, nongot ground brook na empa karma molketa community blomi mi worry.
An engineering team from Jiwaka Provincial Government has gone to assess the damage. Civil engineer Thomas Mack said a lot of work and money is needed to restore the bridges.
Now, the costing lo road estimation about close to 6 million number lo 2 bridge plus 1 bridge collapse stop really 7.
From Barnstown in North Wagi Electorate to call number 1 in Jimmy, where the bridges are, is 55 kilometers. There are more than 17 more villages after call number 1, living and sharing borders with Middle Ramu in Medang and Mount William in Chimbu Province. Its road condition is poor and this electorate needs more attention from the local, provincial and national government to link Jimmy roads to the outside world. Currently, 80% of the population depends on air transport. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
Here with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, some more stories including relief efforts continuing for disaster-stricken areas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A road section in the Papua Province destroyed by flooding during the election period last year has been repaired, allowing traffic between Lae and Bukawa. There was no intervention until last week when machines were brought in to repair the damage. The road is an important link to the northern half of the Papua Province, where several thousands of people live.
Slowly, service delivery is flowing into the outer reaches of the Papua Province, but in trickles. Like most other projects, the political representative of the district visits the implementation. Yesterday, Nawaib MP Kennedy Wenge went to Aluki along the Lae-Bukawa Road, where a section of the road had been washed away.
I'm this for road disaster one kind of some big disaster. Disaster one kind of now Tari Southern Islands play Papua New Guinea disaster. And now this disaster may come up now. People you seem plan is something below. Just talk out come up now me come looking finish. Me talk out now.
This part of his electorate is important for political reasons. He is from the inland area of Morbe. This road runs along the coast, many kilometers from where he comes from.
This is a legal improvement program, that's improving this road. That's this time improve legal money mix him in on up. So me like put him in a program, but this is a program for Papua New Guinea.
But politics aside, the road is a crucial link anyway. When this section of the road was washed away during the elections, government officers came, but nothing happened for 8 months. The provincial government didn't fix the road section until the politicians were sworn in. For now, construction equipment has been placed there to repair the road and keep it open. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
Lae Police will now be cracking down on unroadworthy vehicles in the efforts to improve road transport systems in the city. This follows an increased number of road accidents in Lae. The operations will be done in partnership with the Morbe Land Transport and other stakeholders. Lae Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi Jr. said they will start road safety operations by conducting random vehicle checks and addressing PMV operators.
The efforts to deal with road safety problems in the city will start with addressing PMV drivers and operators. Lae Police Boss Anthony Wagambi Jr. said PMV's role is important and they have to abide by traffic rules and regulations. A meeting was supposed to be held with PMV operators this week, but has been moved to next Thursday after PMV drivers and operators failed to show up on Tuesday.
And we asked for the PMV owners to come forward so that we could talk to them and tell them and give them our expectations. And also for them to reciprocate back to us the problems which they face.
I'd like to appeal to all those PMV operators in Lae City to ensure that they turn up for a meeting on the 22nd at Eriko Oval, because we have a huge issue in Lae with our transport system. It's below par.
Bus stops in Lae are known to be crowded areas prone to petty crimes. One of the aims of partnering with PMVs is to address this and also how buses can improve their services.
Plenty of Brook PMV na kano sembrono Lae City, and people stop him. People work in efficient public transport system.
And we will put a submission forward for authorities to come up to build up, improve our bus stops to help Lae City so that we have effective and efficient transport system in the city.
In January, a fatal road accident claimed the lives of a family at Naswapum. Both vehicles were damaged from the impact. A few weeks later, a company vehicle loaded with workers collided with a bus at 7 Mile. Workers were killed, including a young mother.
Right now you see a lot of unroadworthy vehicles on the road and they're endangering the lives of the passengers.
Police, in partnership with the MVIL, Land Transport Board, Road Safety Council and other stakeholders will be partnering to conduct road safety operations. Random vehicle checks will be conducted and drink driving will not be tolerated. Vehicle owners are also urged to ensure that their vehicles are roadworthy.
And we will continue to ensure that we get our streets safe.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lae.
More than 20 tons of food and water has been supplied to disaster-affected areas by ExxonMobil PNG. Speaking in Port Moresby today, ExxonMobil PNG Managing Director Andrew Barry said the relief efforts are continuing with the aim of providing as much support to affected communities. Mr. Barry was part of a team from ExxonMobil packing relief supplies which will be transported to affected areas tomorrow. ExxonMobil PNG Managing Director Andrew Barry today provided an update on their relief efforts in areas affected by the recent earthquake. With the immediate focus on delivering food, water and shelter to affected communities, Mr. Barry has been pleased with the manner in which all stakeholders have cooperated in reaching affected villages.
This is just one example of what we're doing, working with Salvation Army to be able to get food delivered here, put it together, package it up. This will go into Morrow shortly, and then out of Morrow we're working with all of the teams there in the coordination activities to help identify where the neediest areas are in the communities, and then this food will get delivered into those communities.
According to Mr. Barry, given the potential of the spread of diseases, especially waterborne diseases, ExxonMobil was now also shifting its focus to provide more medical support.
Yeah, what we've been helping out again is getting that fresh water and food into the communities, and also importantly medical supplies. And so the transportation of medical supplies and shelter is really key for what I characterise as this near-term area.
In the long term, ExxonMobil says they will be working with communities on addressing food security, which they say will be critical for the future.
Looking at recovery of gardens, being able to get early yielding crops out there to be able to get the food mechanism back out so we can get a long-term impact.
Support for disaster relief efforts has continued to gain support, with National Oil and Gas Company Kumul Petroleum Holdings today announcing their support, 50 million kina, which will be channeled through the government's National Emergency Coordination Centre. Today, Kumul Petroleum Board Chairman Semoy Ave announced KPHL's financial support towards earthquake disaster relief efforts. He said given the magnitude of this disaster, it was incumbent on all sectors of government and business to stand together to support affected communities.
And I'm very glad to announce that the Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited Board has decided to make a donation of 50 million towards this national disaster. We know the national government has capable officers who can manage this fund on behalf of everybody. We can restore roads, we can reconstruct classrooms, but we can never dry the tears from the families who have lost their loved ones.
Very pleased with the board's position, and very thankful that we are able to help as a company.
KPHL's donation of 50 million kina followed a special board meeting by the company's directors. And according to Managing Director Wapu Sonk, the decision to support relief efforts were a priority for KPHL at this difficult time.
This is the national oil company. This is a national disaster, and all the national companies must show the leadership. And today, the board has considered what has happened in Southern Highlands and Hela. Let's not be parochial about this issue. This is a national disaster.
With this support from KPHL channeled through the government's National Emergency Coordination Centre, they are confident that the funds will be put to good use and properly accounted for.
I would like to ask the National Relief Effort Team to use the funds and work with the provincial teams that have been set up, work in coordination with the NGOs and the aid agencies and the corporates like Allsets and Exxon.
The Mineral Resources Development Company today also announced their support towards relief efforts in affected areas. MRDC Managing Director Augustin Mano announced the funding commitment, a total of 5.5 million kina, to be spread across affected provinces through provincial disaster offices. The Mineral Resources Development Company today announced their support towards relief efforts. MRDC Managing Director Augustin Mano announced their support, which he said would go directly to respective provincial disaster offices. Some of the worst affected areas are areas where MRDC beneficiaries are from.
We've made a donation to the respective provinces which are affected,
Petroleum Resource Kutubu, which Southern Islands and Gulf Province are the major beneficiaries, have allocated 3 million to the two provincial governments, 1.5 to Southern Islands provincial government, the other 1.5 to Gulf provincial government. We've also extended to Hela province another 1.5 million. I think these are the areas where most of the disasters hit. Also, Mineral Resource Octari has also donated 1 million to Western Province. This is the subsidiary of Western Province.
The MRDC has taken a slightly different path to its donation, with funding to go directly to respective provincial disaster coordination committees. According to Mr. Mano, this should allow for disaster committees to work more efficiently at a local level.
Beneficiaries, which is under our control in terms of buying of supplies and making sure that all these relief supplies deliver to our beneficiaries.
This funding support is in addition to logistical support that MRDC through its company Heavy Lift is giving. So far, this has seen more than 24 tons of relief supplies reach affected communities, with MRDC also committing to supporting communities for the long term.
Listen to the provincial government is for them to look after the rest of the province, which is above our mandate.
Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break. Among stories after the break, National Fisheries give 20 million kina to the government in dividends. That and the Microbank rolls out a biometric system. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The National Fisheries Authority has given a dividend of 20 million kina to the government. Fisheries Minister Patrick Basa says this is the first installment of the 400 million kina earmarked by NFA to give to the government. A cheque was presented to Treasurer Charles Abel this morning.
NFA Managing Director John Kasu explains that the 20 million kina dividends were generated after NFA ceased fuel discounts from international fishing vessels. Kasu further stated that NFA receives $400 from every metric ton of tuna PNG exports.
The directive that we cease all discounts that we are giving to fishing vessels. Initially, when we were giving that to the fishing vessels, the intention was to catch fish and put fish through the factory, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing only 25% of that is going into the processing plant. So what we've done this year is basically when ceased that discount, and we've taken that and put it through the factory. So to encourage fish being landed and put through the factory and processed.
In January, NFA paid 8.6 million kina to the processing plant as rebate. In February, NFA paid 10 million kina. The increase in rebate is because of certain incentives NFA is implementing to generate more income for the government and to sustain the industry. Meanwhile, there are plans in place to build canneries in Madang and East New Britain provinces. An assessment report on NFA's performance will be presented in the next Parliament sitting.
So it's encouraging to hear from Minister that the production onshore, even in only 3 months, 2.5 months, has already started to increase. You see, we've already had RD Tuna has put double shift on now. Double shift means additional Papua New Guineans are engaged. It means additional product is being generated in Papua New Guinea. That means that they're sourcing more stuff locally. It means they're making more revenue and therefore more tax locally. And we know that IFC and some of the others have also increased there, because you can see from the production figures that are coming through, you can see from the tuna that is being brought on shore. And that's the whole idea. So we just want to emphasize here, we're very grateful to the NFA for coming in with the dividend of 20 million. It's part of our budgetary revenue. And we accept that, and we look forward to more dividends from the National Fishing Authority. But the real...
Tekla Gunga, National.
Women's Microbank will be rolling out 6 bank access points in the country using a biometric system to rural communities such as in Kikori in the Gulf Province. This pilot project is funded by Pacific Financial Inclusion Program with an investment of 1.5 million kina, supported by AUSAID, European Union, the New Zealand Government, UNCDF and UNDP. This service was launched today in Port Moresby to make banking accessible to clients of Women's Microbank.
There are currently 20,000 women and girls who bank with Women's Microbank. A good number of these women are from the rural areas that travel to Port Moresby to access the bank. Today, the bank launched a milestone pilot project using a biometric system to bring the bank closer to many rural communities under the new project of Mama Bank Access Point.
Set up 6 small maps, Mama Bank access points. So this is not an agent, it is the access point of the bank, where the staff of Microbank, Women's Microbank, will manage and do the basic financial transactions for the people. And that will be using the technology. So you will have this fingerprint scanner where the client can put their fingerprints, which will be the means of recognition. We'll take a photo, and off you go. On a tablet, you can open the bank account.
The project is said to reduce identification problem as well that many banks today face, and will also open doors for new clients.
We are here today to reduce that distance specifically for the clients that you're currently already servicing, the women, and future, and it allows, it opens up opportunities for the future to actually bring in many more women into the financial system.
Australian government, who has been supporting women empowerment to foster PNG economic development, expressed its continuous support to similar projects in the future.
Initiatives like these lead to more women being able to access critical financial services that can help them take control of their own finances and strengthen their control over household budgets. These services also help women to manage risks such as hospitalization, crop failure, high cost of education and energy, and the cost of funerals.
Stacey Yallo, National, EMTV News.
The APEC Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting is into its 3rd day, with various meetings on regional macroeconomics and other economic issues within the region. Today's discussion centered on finance ministers' process work plans and also a global and regional outlook on finance and the economy.
Treasury.
Finance Central Bank Deputies meeting is one of the APEC ministerial meetings which lead up to the main leaders summit in November. The meeting comes just 3 days after PNG hosted the first senior officials meeting. FCBC was created in 2003 as a forum for APEC member countries to discuss regional macroeconomics and other economic issues in the region.
This opportunity to first thank Vietnam for the expert hosting of the finance ministers process in 2017. We will need to work hard to deliver as successful an FNP year as you did last year. I would also like to welcome Chile to the table as the APEC 2019 host. We look forward to working closely with you throughout the year to ensure a smooth transition. We look forward to a constructive discussions and the sharing of knowledge, expertise, and experience across the APEC members.
The FCBD's main agenda is the Finance Minister's Process Work Plan. This morning's chair, Manu Momo, said PNG will be presenting their FMP 2018 work plan and looking for approval from the 22 APEC economies.
Substantial and an ambitious work agenda for 2018, with a range of deliverables that could be presented to our ministers in October. This will be discussed in more detail under session 1, and I look forward to your shared goodwill and commitment to make 2018 a successful year for the finance minister's process.
The strategic goals for the Finance Minister's Process Work Plan are to promote credible policies for sustainable, inclusive and broad-based growth and development in the APEC region, macroeconomic stability, prudent public finance, good corporate governance, stable and efficient financial market, greater economic cooperation, integration and openness among APEC economies.
Be invited to discuss the implications of the outlook for the economies and for the work of the finance minister's process. After lunch, session 3 will cover the first priority area for FMP 2018, which is accelerating infrastructure development and financing.
Also present at the FCBC meeting were the World Bank Group, International Monetary Fund, the Asian Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and organizations for economic cooperation and development. Adelaide Siraks Kari, National, EMTV News.
Departmental heads and central bank deputies from APEC economies gathered to discuss strengthening institutional frameworks, the outlook for the global and regional financial economy, and key developments that are affecting the outlook.
Recognizing the complexities of the financial sector, representatives from APEC economies have gathered to discuss the economic and financial outlook that they face and share views on appropriate policy actions. The risk of global financial conditions tightening remains, and slower productivity gains continue to hinder sustainable growth.
There are various workshops and seminars that are held, which were part of the senior officials meeting, that are then fed through the deputies meeting. Take infrastructure, the workshop on infrastructure that was held yesterday, for instance. What we want to see is for the APEC economies to adopt best practices in formulation of projects, infrastructure for example, and best practices in implementing and the financing options. So that's one way PNG can benefit, through adoption of best practices in formulation and implementation of infrastructure projects.
Leanne Jarari, National EMTV News.
A meeting was held this morning by the Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry, Wera Mori, with some of PNG's major agricultural and fishery entities. The gathering was to collaborate and form cooperatives to raise the agricultural sector by creating more income-generating activities in the provinces with a long-term aim to grow the economy.
Refocusing on agriculture to boost the economy has been on the government's agenda. Creating cooperatives where landowners and farmers can come together and work and generate income at the same time can contribute to grow the overall economy of the country.
The Cooperative Society Division of my department will play a very important role to mobilize former or traditional landowners into cooperative units to venture and partner potential developers and investors. In that way, the cooperatives are able to address the day-to-day issues pertaining to landowners who, in this instance, under cooperative arrangements, will become part owners of the plantation venture.
The meeting this morning with stakeholders discussed ways in which stakeholders and the government can work together with people in the districts to plant and sell their produce in a cooperative manner.
Just as much as a state that we need to generate revenue, it is also important that we must make concessions so that we can be able to attract and foster those who would want to come and invest in this country. I will be discussing, I'll be presenting a paper in NEC to make sure that we are able to provide a conducive environment for those from the agricultural sector who need support, especially waiving of certain duties that are imposed for them to bring in imports to develop the infrastructure, and in the long run, be able to support their plantations and other agricultural activities.
Minister Mori says the cooperative idea will also cut down on general law and order issues and landowner issues in the provinces. He says in the long run, PNG will see the rural industries thrive and push the economy forward.
As the Minister for Commerce that is responsible for policy matters, and especially that pertains to economic activities in this country, I am ready to support my brother Minister for Agriculture, so that together we can be able to bring agriculture to the forefront. The plantation sector will now be a partnership driven by investors, of those who want to come and invest in plantations, together with the cooperative society division of my department, will make that dream become a reality.
Stacey Yallo, National MTV News.
Here with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with cricket, and the women's cricket national team, the Lewers, will once again run under the brand name City Pharmacy PNG Lewers this year. The CPL group was generous enough to continue sponsoring the Lewers with yet another incentive of 200,000 kina.
With the ICC T20 Women's World Cup qualifiers due mid this year in the Netherlands, the Lewers have less than 3 months to go before they can attend the 16-team tournament. After faring well in the East Asia Pacific qualifiers last year, the PNG side is currently the #1 in the region. And CPL's continual of support and the sponsorship of 200,000 kina will finance the Lewers high-performance training before they get there.
Together with City Pharmacy Limited and the whole of the CPL group, which includes Stop and Shop, Hardware House, and Jacks and Prouds, we aim to promote healthy and active lifestyle and the many social benefits for women and girls participating in sports. So with that, I'd like to sort of encourage, not with the current team, but also with a lot of other girls, because I know it's a small community of women's cricket in Papua New Guinea, but let's expand it, let's make it nationwide, and let's get to the higher heights that you girls can achieve. So congratulations and best wishes for the future.
While thanking CPL for the extension of the sponsorship, CPNG chairperson Helen McIndoe also reflected on a successful 2017 for the Lewers.
Now, we're extremely grateful to City Pharmacy for agreeing to sponsor the national team, that's the City Pharmacy Lewers, for the next 2 years. Now, this has been a great partnership. And in the last couple of years, since City Pharmacy came on board in 2016, the City Pharmacy Lewers have just grown from strength to strength.
For now, the Lewers already have a training schedule lined up and will go full on with it under the guidance of former Baramandi Rarua Dikana.
So on behalf of the Cricket PNG board, its management and staff, and of course the cricket family, we'd like to say a huge thank you to Mahesh and the City Pharmacy Group for their ongoing support. And we certainly hope it will continue in the future.
Vinarose Raiko, National MTV Sports.
To swimming, and PNG star swimmers are expected to be in the country tomorrow for the start of the National Swimming Championships. This year's championships will be held at the Taurama Aquatic Centre. More than 60 swimmers from Port Moresby and Lae will also be taking part. Swimmers will be hoping to improve on their times in preparation for the upcoming Commonwealth Games as well as the Oceania titles later in the year. Among those expected to take to the pool are Samuel Segers, Ryan Maskillen, Ashley Sito, Leonard Kalate and Josh Tarere. The first session of the Theodis National Swimming Championships begins at 5 p.m. tomorrow. And we go for a break now and be back with more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To boxing now. An Anzac Boxing Challenge is another concept being planned by the PNG Boxing Union. President John Avira says if pursued, the event can also prepare boxers from PNG, Fiji and Australia for future international tournaments.
The new concept, Anzac Boxing Challenge, Avira says can be used to get both Papua New Guinea and Australia prepare for international meets. He says while the Kokoda Boxing Challenge is a good way to prepare all boxers, he expressed another concept where fighters can also use to formulate themselves. Avira said the Commonwealth Games representative side, together with who will be selected for next year's Pacific Games, will go into intense training. He says more focus will go towards PNG's female boxers. Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
To rugby abroad, and concussions are a recurring thing for Ryan Crotty, and he'll miss the Crusaders match against the Highlanders in Dunedin this Saturday.
I've missed Test football and Super Rugby with concussion symptoms last year, and again left the field after taking a blow to the head against the Hurricanes.
With the amount of concussions he's had previously, it was the best thing for him to do was to make an early call, and it was a bit of advice from the doc and him personally and just how he's feeling, and he knows when he's right. And
the news is better for Sam Whitelock. He's recovered from a head injury sustained last weekend. That means Matt Todd will be relieved of the stand-in captaincy duties, but even he's not back to full fitness after breaking his thumb in the opening round.
Well, there's a fracture in the thumb, I guess, so yeah, still, it's still got to heal, and it's still, niggles me, but it's at a point where I can, at least function enough to get out there.
The last time the two sides met, the Crusaders kept the Highlanders scoreless while knocking the Southerners out of the Super Rugby playoffs.
New All Whites coach Fred Schmidt has made a surprising revelation after naming his first All White squad to face Canada. He has admitted he used feedback from fans, among other sources, to help choose his side.
Sarpreet Singh returned to where it all began today, joining in on training at the Phoenix Academy in Auckland after he was named as one of 6 new faces in the All Whites.
It's a huge honour to be called up to the national team, and I'm really excited to get to Spain.
Singh spent 9 years at the Phoenix Academy before moving to Wellington, where he's made a big impact this season.
But Sarpreet Singh, look at that!
His performances enough to impress new coach Fritz Schmidt.
I haven't seen the coach yet, but I spoke to him and we had a good chat about my career so far and my ambitions.
Schmidt cast his net far and wide to name his first squad and use some unconventional methods to do so.
I would even get, some interesting feedback from the fan side, surfing through fan pages and listening and hearing what the fans are suggesting.
He won't know a lot of players, so he's obviously, it's an exploratory thing, and he's asking around from his coaches, and he's probably pulling in as much information as he can, but it's certainly not one where I'd have gone on. I wouldn't even go there today.
A number of high-profile stars, including Winston Reid and Chris Wood, are missing, but Schmidt says they're still committed to playing for New Zealand. Their omission provides an opportunity to blood some new talent, with Nico Kerwin, son of All Black John Kerwin, and Andre de Jong, son of former All White captain Fred de Jong, also earning their first call-up. Plenty of youthful enthusiasm to keep Singh company on his first taste of international football.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. We go for a break. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Southern region. A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, Alotau and Popondetta, showers. To the Momase region, rain and showers expected in Leh and Wau, the same as well for Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, thundery showers expected all throughout the region, that is in Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundia, Mende and Wabek can expect rain and showers with early morning fog.
The details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Thursday, the 15th of March 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.